Hello, guys. This is Meet the Artist podcast. I'm your host, James Gainey. Today, we're downtown Astoria, Oregon at AVA Gallery on Commercial Street. Today, we're at an exhibit called Courage. Artists and writers face their fears in collaboration with Clapton County Community College. So, let's go take a look at the gallery, guys.
Yeah. Anyway, she told me that things produced during law. I think that's really nice. That's great. And she's okay with that.
To welcome you all to Astoria Visual Arts. These are the types of events that really warm my heart. I'm the executive director, Annie Escalin. AVA has been a nonprofit since 1989. If you want to check out our website, you can see all the other programs that we run in addition to having a gallery that has community events. And I would like to introduce V. Lind. V is
artist, brave enough to say that. My biggest qualification is that I am afraid. I'm afraid my legs are gonna get out, and I love walking these hills. I'm afraid of ice in our community. I'm afraid of the new war. And I've been afraid of possible suffering and death and what may be okay. When we speak our fears, they lose some of their monster aspect. I'd like you to know you're not alone in your fears. So turn to somebody near you. Just say, my name is the I'm afraid to. Listening to the poets read at Rain magazine and announce the topic of courage. Like everyone, I want some of that, right? Fear, I want an armor when I do something hard. I want that clenched feeling. I want the insomnia to go away. And I begin thinking about what is the relationship between fear and courage, since there was no button to kind of push. And as Kristen said, the instructor at Plattsburgh, in her artist statement, they are partners. Courage, fear rings a bell. Something needs to happen. Something's wrong. Or you're doing something hard. Showing up for something hard has fear. We're partners. Or it means it's time to change the way you dance with fear. So I decided to invite Plattsburgh Community College Rain magazine to partner with us at AVA. So I began chatting with my AI assistant. Her name is Maxine, and I was asking her why we love and have flourished in the creative community in Oregon. So she and I always agree. We just and so she said she thought of Astoria as being historical and authentic. And I really like that word authentic. What is the opposite of authentic? It's pretentious. So here today we have authentic, true voices on fear and the dance with courage. I thought she had missed welcoming, and she was okay after I gave her some examples of how welcome I've been. I arrived here 4 years ago. I had never published. I had never spoken at Rick's open mic. I'd never shown in a gallery. And this community is just so welcoming. So here today, we have some people who, like me, their very first time being published in Rain magazine, having art in a gallery. So raise your hand so the rest of the community can welcome you if you're like one of the first people to show. For sale, and by the way, just let us know at that desk, that range from $20 for first-time cleaners to $1,500 for selective people who are part of selective galleries, and that is what it means to me to be authentic and welcoming in Astoria. I share that value with Kemma O'Connor and the Rain staff. So, Kemma, could you come on up?
Thank everyone for being here tonight. This is a very special night for me. It is a night or day rather that has taken a lot of work, and I'm not ashamed to admit for 2 seconds that most of that work was this crew. And then can you raise your hand if you're a Rain magazine student, please? So these hands put together and curated the biggest book of literary fiction, which means poetry, nonfiction, fiction, art and photography, not a lot of which, but a decent amount of which you'll see tonight. It would take eight of these rooms to fill what we put in our book this year. It's a record-breaking, it's like 317 pages this year. And the reason we didn't cull that down is we have amazing student contributions this year. So we have a lot from Astoria High School, and then we have a lot from Seaside High School, and then our community college students. So what this means to me is we don't just have, raise your hand if you've been published in RAIN more than 5 times. So more than 10. Okay, so we've got a few here in this room, and what this says to me is, you folks, and you're lucky, I know your email addresses, your phone numbers, lots of where to find you around town, is that we are raising up this next generation of poets and photographers and artists. We have our youngest published author in RAIN here, and I'm so sorry, but she's my niece, so she gets to be called out. This is her second time being published in RAIN magazine. So we've got the next generation of courageous artists, right? We asked you as you came in, and if we missed you, I'm so sorry. But we asked you to put what courage means to you on the window. Please take a minute and think about doing that today, because what today means is not just this raising up of another generation of artists, it means another generation of fighters. It means another generation of people who are going to stand up in the face of oppression. So the art, the photography, the poetry that you're reading, some of it's pretty political. We've got one of our pieces on the window that just says outright how the author feels, and it's a beautiful thing. So I want you to take tonight and please engage with this work. Please find the artists and authors and talk to them and find out their story. And pretty please think about ways that you can be courageous, and we would love to see more of your work as you go through. And that's all I have to say, but about our staff. I do want to do 2 things though. I want to thank a couple people because we won't get the chance to do this publicly. Constance, if you could raise your hand. Constance reached out to us just like we did and said, I might get maybe, that she really wanted to make sure that this magazine went to print. It's hard to be a community college, period. Just full stop right now. It's also really hard to be a community college class that puts together something like this in 10 weeks. It's hard to do it with no budget assigned to this class, which means we don't have allocated funds, or we didn't. The college is going to start to match some of these funds, which is really great. But Constance said, I would like to make sure this magazine goes to print and that it can get out there for these contributors, because all contributors who are accepted get a free copy of the magazine. So Constance and your company thrive, and thank you so much. Constance is also one of our longtime contributors to RAIN magazine, and her poem is here in, I believe, the book, if not on the wall. The book? Okay. So there's a book of extra poems, because again, we just don't have the space to say all the things we want to say, even though the space is gorgeous. And I want to thank EBA for hosting this. This is absolutely beautiful. So if you're an EBA person, could you raise your hand? So those of us, look at this. We've got a lot of other students and things here, so thank you for your support and thank you for showing up. And enjoy tonight. Bea is going to lead you through some of our student readings. We've got a lot happening tonight, so thank you so much. We're going to read their pieces. We've got Scott and Sophia. If you would like to read, come on up and share your work with us today.
Hello, everyone. Hi. Sophia Vandergriff. I'm a student at Clatsop Community College, and I just feel really honored to be able to share what courage means to me with you all tonight, so thank you. There's a particular kind of silence that follows a phone call you've been dreading. Not the absence of sound, but the vacuum left behind when the world tilts and you realize it will never right itself the same way again. I know this silence intimately. I learned it 3 times in 8 months. The first loss arrived in spring of 2025, just as I was finding my footing. I was freshly 31 years old, a former hairdresser from Los Angeles who had packed up her life and moved to Oregon's coast to do something I'd always wanted but never believed I could: go to college. My fiance's aunt, a woman who had become the mother-in-law I never expected to have, who folded me into her family as though I had always belonged there, was gone. I sat with that grief while learning the science of plants and writing research papers, still new enough to this life that I wasn't sure I had the right to fall apart. Then came finals week of spring term. My Nana was hospitalized and I left immediately to Reno. She passed a few days later to stomach cancer nobody knew she had. The woman who raised me, who was the first to hold me in this world, whose voice I still have memorized, and the one that I hear when I need to be brave, she was gone. I stayed with my grandfather in Reno for a month after her death while pursuing summer term at Clatsop Community College online. I wasn't ready to go, but the month was up. My fiance Josh and my dog Bunny road tripped to pick me up in Reno, and we drove back to Astoria carrying a grief so heavy I wasn't sure my body could hold it. By November of that year, when my other grandmother passed, I had stopped being surprised by loss. This is its own kind of devastation. The moment when grief becomes familiar, when you realize you know exactly how death feels, how the days move like mud, how people stop asking if you're okay because enough time has passed for them, but not for you. 3 deaths, 1 year, and every Monday morning I sat in class. People use the word courage casually. They use it for bungee jumps and career changes, for first dates and public speeches, and I don't begrudge anyone for their vision of it. But I want to tell you about the kind of courage that nobody celebrates, the courage it takes to brush your teeth when your grandmother is dead, to open a textbook when the words blur because you've been crying for hours, to sit across from a doctor and admit that you need help, that the fog has become too thick to navigate alone, and to swallow a small pill each morning that you hope will eventually let you feel something other than heavy. There were mornings I negotiated with myself in the smallest increments. Not, get through the term, that was unthinkable. Just sit up, now stand, now make coffee, now drive to campus, now open the door to the classroom and lower yourself in the chair. I became an architect of tiny survivals, building each day from the smallest possible units of motion. Depression settled over me like coastal fog, so gradual I didn't notice until I was already inside of it, disoriented and cold. Starting an antidepressant felt like its own act of surrender and bravery at once. Admitting the weight was too much to carry with willpower alone. I kept going to classes, I kept showing up as vice president for our student government. I kept turning in assignments and planning events for students who had no idea the person organizing their club fair was barely holding herself together. My GPA held at 3.95, a number that reads like ease, but was built on something closer to defiance. Grief wants you to stop. It whispers that nothing matters, that your plans are foolish in the face of loss. And in some ways, grief is right. Loss does rearrange your priorities with brutal clarity, but what grief doesn't account for is stubbornness. The particular stubbornness of a woman who already remade her life once, who left everything familiar at 29 to chase a future she could barely articulate, and who refuses to let the worst year of her life become the reason she gave up. My Nana would have not wanted me to stop. She always told me I was going to have the best life, and she meant it with everything she had. She was the kind of woman who taught me about feminism and etiquette in the same breath, who played Madonna's Little Star on the drive home from Tahoe and dedicated it to me, who made the world's best cinnamon toast and bolognese and gave me the best head pets while I fell asleep. She weathered years of chronic migraines with such quiet toughness that none of us knew her body was hiding something far worse. She had a heart of gold and the highest standards for everything, her lipstick, her cleaning, the way she moved through the world, and the same was expected of me. Not perfection, but presence. I carry her in the way I show up, not gracefully, not easily, but completely. I am writing this from Astoria, Oregon, where the rain is constant and the river meets the sea, in a way that reminds me that endings and beginnings occupy the same water. I'm still a student, I'm still grieving, I'm still learning how to live inside a body that chemistry is slowly teaching to feel something other than sorrow. I am still here, and the fact that all of these things exist simultaneously, that I can hold tragedy in one hand and triumph in the other, is, I think, the truest courage I've ever known. It is not the courage of grand gestures, but the courage of continuation.
Tough act to follow, so thanks, Sophie.
Oh, sorry.
While this may not be exactly courage, this is titled The Things We Do for Love. But I am adventurous, I exclaimed, but my new girlfriend wasn't buying it. Despite having ridden hundreds of miles together on multi-day bicycle treks, camping where we could, and prevailing in torrential rains and blistering sun, my proclamation fell on deaf ears. So what makes one adventurous? I had never skied, snow or water, gone mountain climbing, and scuba diving was something my oldest brother did, but I'd never tried. You've never seen the remote logging sites I visited or having to depend on the lone English speaker I could find in the Kyiv, Ukraine airport. Those aren't adventures, she countered in a somewhat dismissive tone. Those were part of your job. What have you ever done that made the hair on the back of your neck stand up, that makes you feel exhilarated, truly alive? Well, I did have a gun pointed at my head in a robbery. That's not what I mean, as she interrupted me. I mean something that makes you say, oh my God, when it's over. To laugh, to cry, and to have an adrenaline rush that lasts for hours. I guess the Space Mountain roller coaster at Disney World isn't better. No, it doesn't. Laughing at my poor attempt at machismo. Well, what have you done that's so fucking adventurous? I flippantly shot back. I jumped out of an airplane. I've been told I would never make a good poker player as my face gives away my emotions entirely too readily. Oh shit, I thought. She's going to suggest we go skydiving. Please, 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 no. It's a blast! She said, almost jumping up and down, knowing she had me trapped. Let's do it. Early in a relationship, you don't want to kill the vibe. This one had long-term potential, so I didn't want to screw it up by being a wuss in her mind. In my mind, however, it was plain common sense. Why in the world would you jump out of an airplane if you didn't have to? That following Saturday, there we were at the McHenry County Airstrip getting our skydiving instructions before we and a few other brave souls, aka idiots, took off. Experienced skydivers would be jumping with us just to make sure we had enjoyed our experience. I felt they were really there because the skydiving company's liability insurance policy insisted on it. So with minimal instruction about which cord to pull and when to release our parachutes, off into the wild blue yonder we went. It was beautiful looking down at the fields and groves of rural northern Illinois. It was almost peaceful, except I was so nervous anticipating the jump I thought I might soil my pants. Oh, the things we do for love. Well, sex, actually, truth be told. Soon the instructor informed us to get ready as it was almost time to jump. Double check your harnesses, reminding us which cord to pull and when. And then, oh my God, out the plane we went. This was truly a rush like I'd never experienced before. Exhilaration, breathtaking, free-falling, weightlessness. I had no idea how many feet per second we were dropping, and after what seemed like both an eternity and a blink of an eye, the instructor signaled us that it was time to pull the cord. I'd watched the others pull their cords and saw their chutes fly out and start to expand. I pulled my cord and the chute came out, but I didn't feel a sensation of resistance we were told to expect as the chute opened. I looked up. I saw a limp chute above me. Where was the instructor who was jumping with me to bail me out? I looked every way I could and I didn't see him. I did see my girlfriend and the others with their chutes open, enjoying a gentle glide or a gentle descent in the summer sky. Panic gripped me. I knew without the instructor grabbing onto me, I would soon be a messy ball of goo, broken bones, with a non-functioning chute on top of me upon impact. Had I told my mother I loved her? I guess that organ donor card was likely of no use. I'm glad I put off preparing that presentation I was giving on Tuesday. Who was going to settle my estate? Why hadn't I written a will? There was no sense in crying. Is there an afterlife? Will I be able to talk to my grandfather? The earth was rapidly approaching, the houses and trees increasing in size like the opening credits of Star Wars, but in reverse. I hope I hit something flat, not get mangled crashing through some trees. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bramp, bramp, bramp. Bramp, bramp, bramp. Bramp, bramp, bramp. Where's that phone? Why hadn't I chosen a different alarm tone? Gotta get up, it's Tuesday. I'm giving a presentation in a few hours.
I hope this show doesn't fail. It fails if it doesn't touch you to take one different step in your dance with fear and your dance with courage. I'm going to point out a few that have touched me and helped me be braver. And we have 3 poets that will share briefly. So this is a woman in my poetry class who in her 30s got MLs where she couldn't pull the paintbrush anymore. So she fell in love with the color yellow with her strength, and she found that she had enough strength in her palm to press origami birds. Right? So it makes me get up with my fears and look in new ways. Similarly, there are 3 pieces of artwork by Vicki Baker, Janine Phillips, and Kylie Grantis, who many of us have had fear because there's violence in our family or something we love. There are 3 pieces that are very narrative of that pain that we share with domestic violence. Another thing that speaks to me is sometimes art isn't a story, but something nonverbal, something like with this picture facing forward. It's like when I face it, I hold my strength. And similarly, this picture by John Elder's Maid is nature's way of holding focus and strength that I can take with me on difficult things. So this is a wall where I invited people who I felt had different experiences with pain and with courage and that dance. I invited them to make art pieces and either write their own accompanying poem or invite somebody that they've never met to say what affects them for that poem. So this is a dance between the words and the art, and you get to listen in on the conversation. With that said, and thank you for sharing that, we'll begin with Rodney and Lincoln. So if you can come stand next to your art and read your poem.
This photo was laid on a table at an open mic with an invitation to respond. And I looked up Lincoln and read a couple of paragraphs about him, and then this is where I came. Department store mannequin stands on the corner of 5th Street alone. Dead center of nowhere, conspicuous in its hiding, camouflaged only to himself. In a suit too big, but sleeves too short, Iowa draping for a Korean body. To face forward, he turns his back on everything. He cannot recover it. Looking forward, what seemed either this or that was neither this or that. This America never quite fits, but Korea offers no home. So he stands exposed as he must at the corner of 5th Street. To face forward, he turns his back on what will not return and what will never come.
The poem is called Heart Rage.
He learned that the word courage is heart rage.
In French, la cour is heart and rage, and so I kind of ran with that. The path is held by the heart, the path to acceptance, the path to contentment, the path to joy. The soul is cared for by the heart, the soul is fed, the soul is alive, the soul is whole. I'm sorry, he's gone. Get out. I never want to see you again. Don't tell anyone. You're on your own. I never said that. Not anymore. I met somebody. The soul is damaged. The soul is doubting. The soul is drained. The soul is empty. The heart rages at the universe. The heart asks why. The heart asks what now. The heart asks which way. The path lies before the heart. The path leads to optimism. The path leads to overcoming. The path leads to fullness.
Allow me to talk my shit. We were stolen. We were stolen. Relocated. Not even considered human. We went from colored, nigger, over a 400-year period to live in a country where oppression is wrapped around a state of non-consciousness 1,000 times like Death's job to count breath. Trying to rationalize a night that's been molested into submission. Non-accountability is the new slogan on cereal boxes being passed around the table of pedophiles that plan family trips to reenactments of bloodshed and land stolen. It took 2 turns to realize there's a new non-colored human nigga in town. Welcome to civil courage. At this point, someone should have told you, the oppressor can't be oppressed. The rapist can't be the victim. The police can't be the robbers. And the truth can't be a lie. Really? Really? Welcome to civil courage.
Usually I'm working and I can't make it to these.
I've been to like maybe 3 of them. This is a really good crowd.
Okay, that's what I thought too.